Investment holding company Brimstone Investment swung into profit in the year ended December 2021, posting group profit of 920.9 million rand. That compares to a loss of 43.8 million rand in the year prior. Group earnings per share came in at 292.3 cents compared to a loss of 73 cents before. The company has declared a final gross dividend of 30 cents a share. Well, to unpack their results for us, I'm joined by Mustaq Brey. He's the CEO at Brimstone Investment. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. A very positive development, of course, for the company in the year under review. Which of your investments were the main drivers behind the better performance?
Well, thanks very much. Look, overall it was very good in that our trading operational subsidiaries and associates did very well. That includes Sea Harvest, Obsidian, Oceana. And then, of course, also on the investment side, the market-to-market stuff, Equitas, also did well. Patumanati did well as well. So, all of the stuff came together at the same time and it gave us a very, very good ultimate result. But part of it also goes back to what we did 2 years ago when we realized that we had a bit too much debt when the market went down due to COVID at the beginning of 2020. So over 2020 and over 2021, in those 2 financial years, we repaid about 2 billion rand of debt by selling off some of our assets. And I think what you see now today in actual fact is a combination of all of those things coming together, where the company's doing better, the market moving in the right direction, and the substantial reduction in our interest bill. So that's really coming together of all of those little bits and pieces.
Yeah, that's very timely, of course, given the fact that we're now in an environment where interest rates are going up.
Absolutely. So having repaid 2 billion rand in debt, you can imagine the actual savings for the company on that. Absolutely.
Indeed. So just in terms of, a lot has happened in the past couple of years with COVID and everything else. And now we've got a war in the Eastern European area and so on and so forth. But where do you see possible investment opportunities, well, specifically in the South African market where you tend to focus?
Well, our underlying businesses are doing well. We like to support our underlying businesses. We've got a big exposure to the fishing industries. Thankfully, the minister has just awarded 15-year quotas, and our companies have done well in that process as well. So there's plenty of opportunities in that area as well, where we can go and further invest in the fishing industry via Oceana and Sea Harvest and other investments as well. And then, of course, one of our other small subsidiaries, Obsidian, has done very well as well. This year it made more than 20 million profit compared to last year, making just under 7 million rand profit. So there are a number of opportunities we've got. The real issue we've got at the moment is, I think, with what's happening in the world, not just with the war going on with Russia and Ukraine, it's going to have an impact on the commodity prices, but especially if you look at the price of fuel, what's happened, and in the fishing industry, our boats go out to sea, they use a lot of fuel as well. So that's going to be probably negative. And at the same time, I think the consumers are going to have less money in their pockets because of the higher fuel prices they have to pay at the moment for fuel at the pumps. So, so you've got that bit of negativity coming, and you've got the fact that interest rates are starting to tick up again after 2 years of coming down quite nicely.
Yeah.
We were at very low rates, and now all of a sudden it's starting to go up, and I think we're going to be back in a bit of inflation position very, very soon. Yeah.
Now, you do tend to invest in companies that tend to be quite correlated to the economy. And of course, you would be looking closely at things like economic growth. We're set to only grow at sub 2% over the medium term. Based on that, what's your prognosis, for the performance of your investments in the medium term?
Well, in our food investments, whether we got a recession or not, people carry on eating. We saw during COVID as well. We had to change the way we marketed our products and that type of thing. From being a main exporter of fresh fish out to the overseas market, we had to go back to the local market and that. But people eat any time of the year, whether there's a recession or not. So, those are a bit of grudge purchases, I would say, that people need to buy food to eat. And at the same time, with our investment in the healthcare business, with Obsidian as well, people will still get sick. They'll still need, to be serviced and go and see doctors and buy. We supply into the medical industry. So we got quite defensive investments in those areas.
To what extent were your investments in the health sector a boon for you during the COVID period, or not necessarily?
Well, a strange thing happened, Obsidian Health, you supply what I term a lot of, they supply spare parts to the market, right? Including stents and knees and hips and all those type of things. During COVID, the normal operations stopped or came down to minimal. What they then did is they went into other items and they brought in a lot of all these antigen tests for COVID and that type of thing. That became a new market. So in spite of the pandemic being around, and the pandemic, by the way, is still with us. It's far from being over. We've just seen the numbers coming out of the East in the last few days. It's frightening what's happening at the moment. So yeah, they had to think on their feet and adjust for what the market needed in the current times. And they did that very, very successfully.
Yeah. Despite what you say about the coronavirus still being with us, and being, having investments in the medical field and so on and so forth, and looking at what's happening with our local economy, how important is it for us to continue to live with COVID, but not shut aspects of the economy down? How can we go forward and live with this thing and continue to contribute to the economy?
I think we need to take all the precautions. People need to be vaccinated. They need to take actual precautions. I mean, a number of our boats go out to sea for a number of days at a time. And before our people go out, they get tested as well. And we try and put them into safe places before they go out to sea, because you don't want to send out the boat for 6 weeks and part of your crew gets sick because, and you have to bring them back. So there are additional costs involved as well. But yeah, and I think we're still going to have to be very, very disciplined over the next number of months, or maybe it was the next 2 or 3 years until COVID is finally behind us.
Mr. Mustaq Brey, thank you very much for your time, sir. He's the CEO at Brimstone Investment.